Hey y'all, today we're going to talk a little bit about parallel lines, and we're going to use what we discussed about slope to help us do some parallel lines things. So if two lines in the coordinate plane are parallel, then that means they have the same slope. Of course, it's important to recognize or re-go over that parallel lines are two lines that are never going to touch each other, so they'll never intersect. They go on and on forever and never intersect each other. So in the coordinate plane, what happens when two lines are parallel and they never intersect, that means that they have the same slope. So we can use that piece of information to figure out if a couple lines are parallel. All we need to know about the lines is what their slope is. So if I have two lines A and B, and I know 2 points on each of the lines, I can find the slopes of those lines, and then using those slopes I can compare them and determine if the two lines are parallel. So from the last lesson, I'll use my slope formula, and I'll find the slope of line AB. That's what I'm representing here. M is the slope of line AB, and I'll get that line AB has a slope of -2. You might get -2/1. We can write it that way, or we can write it as -2. Find the slope of line CD. We find that line CD also has a slope of -2. That means if we were to graph these two lines, they would be parallel to each other because they have the same slope. So if we kept graphing them and we extended the lines on and on and on and on forever in both directions, they would never intersect each other. They would always be parallel. That can show up in a different way, so I've given you the equation of two lines. So in the last lesson we found the slopes of those equations. Now we can compare them and see if those lines would be parallel in the coordinate plane. So I'm going to take this 3x minus 5y equals 15, and I'm going to solve it for y and get it in slope-intercept form. And then I can see that the slope of this line is 3/5. And then I'll take 30x plus 50y equals 150, and I'll solve that one for y. I'll get it into slope-intercept form. And I'll find that the slope of this line is -3/5. So we have to look very carefully at these two slopes. They both are 3/5, except the one here in orange is positive, the one in purple is negative. So that means they're not the same. One's going up to the right with a positive slope. The purple one's going down to the right with a negative slope. That means they're definitely going to intersect each other. So they would not be parallel. So I'd like you to pause, and this one's very similar to the one we just did. So pause here and find the slopes of these two lines, compare them, and decide whether or not they're parallel. So we're going to solve the first one for y, get it into slope-intercept form, and we're going to find that the slope of that first line is -1/3. We'll solve the next one for y again, get into slope-intercept form, and we'll find that the slope of that line is also -1/3. So if we look at them, they are the same. They have the same slope. That means if we graph them, we would be graphing two parallel lines. Yes, they are parallel. So I have two you-dos for you to do. For both of them, I want you to answer yes or no, are the lines parallel? And use what you got from this lesson to figure out that answer.